You're going to hear and see issues with youth group ministry that you're going to say, I'm sorry, I cannot accept this. And you're going to have you're not gonna always have best friends, okay? Which is okay, because the only best friend you need to have in your service and in your leadership is him. And then you're gonna need to support the individuals. So knows the way, goes the way, shows the way. You're going to support them. Kids today need the support. Adults today need the support. You will be surprised, and I'm saying this based on what I'm seeing in my profession. I don't think it's going to be before 3 or 4 years before kids and adolescents and even adults are going to get over what happened in COVID. Okay. Don't forget high school kids that we have now in our churches. They were the kids who were between grade 4 and 7 during the years of COVID. They were either in grade 4, 5, or 6, or 7. These are the times when they are tweens and starting teenage years. They started them where? In their rooms, behind computer screens, locked up in the house. Mama and Baba decided that they have kids at that time, and they were actually surprised that their kids are driving everyone around them crazy because they started driving them crazy, right? It's very funny. Like, you don't know how many parents said, how do you do this every day? Well, you bring your kids to me, and then when they do something wrong, you always defend them. But now that they are staying home with you, you're seeing what we're seeing 8 hours every day. So I think one of the most important thing right now is to actually support those kids and support the adults in the ministry. Leadership, in one of the courses that I teach, it's called Real Success. Okay, and Real Success stands for relationship, E for equip, A for attitude, L for leadership. Number one success in your leadership is the relationship. Having that relationship with your co-servants, having that relationship with the kids that you serve is it's a must, it's not an option. And again, going back, equipping them. One of my favorite verses is from the letter of St. Paul to St. Timothy, when he tells him, let no one despise your youth. Okay, let no one despise your youth. How many of us, when we're serving kids or youth, we all say they're just kids? They're just kids. What do we expect from kids? When you hear the word, they're just kids, do you expect anything from them? No, right? Gentlemen, they're just kids. Do you expect anything from kids? Joba, I know you serve grade 4 now. Do you expect anything from them? Okay, I'll tell you a secret, Joba. Last year, before our mission trip, the same kids you serve, the grade 4s now, they were in grade 3. A group of them came together and started to make rainbow looms, I think they're called, bracelets. And they would spend lunch recess and they would spend snack time and any time that they had in the middle of the day to make those bracelets. And they started to sell those bracelets to their teachers and the students and the parents and the grandparents because they wanted to raise money for the poor people that we are going to visit on our mission trip. They were in grade 3. They're your Sunday school kids. And I'm telling you this because I know. In 1 week, the group of 4 girls and 1 boy raised $1,000. But they're just kids. They're just kids. So when you are in leadership, guiding them, teaching them, believing in them will help you see things really differently. Okay, I'm trying to honestly go through this without any glitches, but my phone is not a happy phone. I think okay, now it's on and off. I think it's working now. It's on. The role of a leader and the responsibility and so on. Great leaders make more leaders. When you are a good servant, when you are doing your job as a servant, what you're actually doing is you are making more servants. Those 5 kids, they started this whole thing in our school, and other kids started to make crafts and sell them. And all of a sudden, it became in giving we receive. And we were so excited, right? So your leadership responsibility, it's a multifaceted. You undertake in providing the guidance, the mentorship, and support individual within the ministry environment. The kids that you're serving, they're like plants. They need to be watered, right? And your job is to give them that watering. You planted the seed, they were baptized in the church, they grew up, they went to Sunday school, they did. In our church, I don't know about Father, but in our church, there are things that we do automatically. So a kid is baptized, Mama and Baba bring them to church for Mass every Sunday, and then at the age of 2.5, they start bringing them to Sunday school, and then from 2.5 to grade 10, is it that you start prep to serve? They're in Sunday school and middle school and high school, and then they also come prep to serve, and there's the hymn classes, and there's, right? We have a whole list of things that it's an automatic thing. And we think that by doing that, we're actually watering the plant. But I don't think we are. I don't think we are. Do you agree or disagree? Agree. We're doing it automatically, right? But where is the actual watering? The watering happens when a group of kids like this come together and see something, and then we encourage them. They're not just kids. I want to go now to my next. I'm apologizing because, okay. So as Abuna said, Peter is going to talk to you about management, and I'm the older, wiser sibling. So I'm the cooler one of the two of us. I already explained to Father. Peter is going to talk to you about all the process and the do's and don'ts, okay? But I want to talk to you about leadership versus manager, okay? Yes, there are things that are very similar, and there are things that are a bit different. Although parts of management will come in to play, not by choice, but because of the role you play. So the similarities, both the leader and the manager, they play a crucial role in guiding and directing a team. They both have a team under them, and they both direct and guide them, okay? They all want to go towards a common goal. Remember the vision? In fact, in leadership, the first thing that you do in leadership, and this is something that you can do within your Sunday school classes and your youth group classes, is when a new leader comes in, they actually come look at the vision and the mission with their team and create something along the same lines, but in their own words that it belongs to them. So that when you create that vision, so let's say Mr. Tekla here decides to go, which one are you? Are you the youngest? Number 3, okay. Now you know I'm very old when all 3 of them have gone through my life at one point. So Mr. Tekla here said that they actually will, their vision is to have the kids sing, okay? In the new year, you come together with your team of servants that will be serving with you and the youth that will be serving with you, and you rewrite that vision so that way you're able to lead them towards that goal. They both require effective communication. Now, please avoid text messages and WhatsApp messages and emails, because that's when things start getting lost, okay? A phone call or a face-to-face will take you half the time to communicate what you want with your team over a text message that's misunderstood, okay? You try to untangle a text message that someone read it and got offended. Try to untangle it. Good luck. I wish you all the best, okay? So both require effective communication, decision-making. Now, this is not an option, okay? Whether you are serving in a class or you're coordinating the service, decision-making is an ongoing thing. You come into class and the kids are crazy and rowdy and they won't stop talking, and you have the lesson to give. You have to take a decision now on how you're going to carry on that lesson. You go on a trip and you are the leader on that trip, you're one responsible, and some boys decide, and this is a story from last year from another church, I get a call and they were asking me if they did the right thing. They decided as they were walking back in Niagara Falls to a group of boys to go through, they ran through a hotel, don't ask why, and they jumped into the swimming pool of that hotel, which they weren't part of. This is not where they were staying. They jumped into the pool of that hotel with their clothes on. Okay? Decision, you're in charge of that trip. The fun part, two of them were kids of servants on that trip. Okay? So you can only imagine. So they were sent back from the trip and it was a decision, right? Decision making has to happen fast. I'll tell you another story about decision making. We're in Egypt, okay? I have 54 wonderful young people coming with me on that mission trip. And I heard 3 days before we travel that a group of the boys are planning to go on Egypt Air. As soon as they get on the flight, they're going to scream, "There is a bomb on the plane." For fun. For fun. So it was our last meeting before the trip. I brought them together. And as I brought them together, right before my phone rang, and you know when God plays jokes with you? So this was one of God's jokes. I get a phone call from the ambassador of Egypt to Canada. And he's so excited. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's so excited because he found out that he will be on the same flight to Egypt with 54 teenagers, okay? And he called to tell me, and it was the same teenagers that were going to actually scream out, "There's a bomb on the plane." The ambassador, like, this is like diplomacy, and it's like, I'm done. Like, I won't enter into the country again. So I had a meeting with the boys and the girls, and I actually brought them together to actually make sure that everyone, we went through the final 10 commandments. You guys are representing the school, you're ambassadors, you're doing this, you're doing that. And I informed them that the Egyptian ambassador will be on the plane. He will come and greet them. They are to greet him properly. He's a pretty cool guy. So he gave them props when he came to school. So I had to explain to them that just because he gave you props, it doesn't mean that you don't call him your excellency. To make things worse, he was actually a pair of jeans and a sweater. So they really didn't understand how they could call him your excellency. So the plane was okay. We got to Egypt. We're good. First day passes, second day passes, third day we're at the pyramids. Okay? What these kids did not know is because we are an official delegation, the amount of security, undercover security that's on that group is insane. And so we had like Egypt Secret Services were calling the places before we get there to ensure of our safety and whatever. It was this last trip was fun. Long story short, we're at the pyramids. We finished the first part of the pyramids, and then, Father, one day we will take you with us. You go up with the bus on the hill where you get to get on the camels and the horses. And as we are getting off the bus, I forgot as a leader to spell out the instructions that the word bomb is not to be said anywhere at any time, with anyone. Okay, I forgot. I only mentioned it for the plane part. As we were getting off the bus, one of the kids was coming down and says, "Oh, so there's the bomb there." Luckily, no one heard him except for me. In a split second, I turned around and I said, "You have two options." And when I get angry, Jonathan, do I yell? No, my voice goes down. Right, Justina? These were former students. My voice actually goes lower, does not go up. So I said, "You have two choices. Either on the bus, and you're not going on that camel ride, or on the next plane out of Egypt to Canada. None of the staff heard him, so everyone's trying to defend him. The kids don't know what's happening, and I said, two choices, make one of them now. Decision had to be made. He chose the easier one. He went on the bus. One of the teachers was staying on the bus. She couldn't get out. So she obviously sympathized. This mean, cruel principal is putting that kid on the bus, and the highlight is to actually get on those camels and take the panoramic picture with the pyramids behind it. Like that's how you know you went to Egypt. I'm depriving him. And she called me. So I didn't answer her because I knew if I answered her, it would be an issue. So she called another teacher. They gave me the phone. I said, do not ask the question because the decision is final. About 10 minutes of him being on the bus, he admitted to her what he had said. So she understood the decision. Next step would be the difference between a manager and a leader. Okay. When we got back on the bus, he came and apologized. He actually, as he looked out of the window, he realized how many undercover officers were around for us. Because they are undercover, but they're not undercover with their machine guns. Okay, so then he saw. So he apologized, and so that night we were going to see His Holiness Pope Tewodros, and we had brought him a gift. So I needed one of the young people to give him a gift. So I called him and I said, "It is your responsibility tonight to present the gift to His Holiness on behalf of the trip. Am I going to be able to trust you?" He was one of the best behaved for the rest of the trip. Now, mind you, he caused me a little bit of an issue with the Pope, but that was besides the point. He gave Sayyidina the gift, and Sayyidina said thank you, and he gave it to one of the people that work in the cathedral. Miss, that guy took it. That guy, stop talking, move. The Pope is there. I know what he's doing. And so decision making could be as big as you rearranging your class, or making that stand and saying, you know what? You're not going to have that part of the trip because what you said could have put us all in trouble. Leadership and management. Interpersonal skills. Knowing your team, knowing the people that you serve, knowing who you're with, it's very important, okay? And here I'm gonna also tell you something. As a leader, you lead people towards your vision and your common goal. Along the way, some of these people might have change of hearts. By the way, guys, I'm gonna go through it as fast as I can, and then I'm gonna let you go early today, okay? I'm a nice person, I'm a nicer speaker than others. Next week, you're gonna be doing some work. So interpersonal skills are very important. Being intuitive and knowing, you know, when and how and where and what to do, when to do it, is very important when you're a leader, okay? A difference between leaders and managers. Leaders focus on inspiring and motivating. I was actually asked in an interview, one of the interview questions, what are some things that motivates you to go into work? And I said, innovations. I tell kids all the time, think outside the box. If I can't think outside the box, then I can't really be motivated to go on. Funny thing is, there's a statement in our school that they know it. The minute I say, I have a crazy idea, I don't know why teachers run the other way, but then they go around and come back to me. They know I can't sit still and not think of something creative. If we don't do something creative for a long time, I find it very boring, okay? So being innovative, leading that team to that common vision and setting it high and driving the innovation. Keep it going. Let's think of something creative. You know, this year we're doing this, next year we're going to do that. During COVID, that's another thing. They're just kids. During COVID, we could not do our annual mission trips. And one of the kids that has never been on a mission trip got an email from McCarthy's. And McCarthy's is the uniform store we buy our uniforms from. And McCarthy's had a big sale. They were selling their $200 shoes for $5. It was COVID. The business was bad. They were trying to get rid of stuff. So I said to her, and what do you want to do? She said, we can't go this year anywhere. And at that time, there was a something happening with one of the ministries in Egypt. It was Asla Taib, your good roots, basically. And basically they were asking for any donations because as much as Egypt and the Egyptian army was trying to cope with COVID, they really needed a lot of support. So at that time, I only had 320 students. So she called McCarthy's. I said, it's your project, it's not mine. But if you get those shoes, I will communicate with the right people to send those shoes to the right places. So she called McCarthy's and she made a deal with them. She said, we have 320 students, so we want to send overseas 320 pairs of shoes. How much of them could you give us for free? And how much do you want us to pay? She got half the shoes for free, and half of them we paid for them. And the next part was the innovation, was we got the kids to put them in gift bags and pack them and close the bags. And we send those pictures actually overseas. And I called Egypt Air, and they were supposed to charge you God knows how much per luggage. And those bags were heavy. And they took them for free, and they let them through, and they put them through the customs, and they went to the less fortunate. Innovation. I can't do what's normal where I would go overseas. I mean, I have a group of kids traveling on Wednesday to Puerto Plata for a mission. I can't go to Bolivia. I can't travel outside the country. That's fine, no problem. What can I do? Manager focuses on planning. Here's my warning. As a leader, I act first and then I think. Okay? So I come up with my crazy ideas. And then I think about, everything that will come along the way. A manager, and that you'll see even the way my brother will talk, he'll be very systematic. Okay? He bores me to death, but he's the lawyer, right? So I have to be nice to him. But leaders, we're focused on the idea. We want people to be excited about it. We want to get people involved. We want to make sure that we're creative, right? In your service, it's going to be those people who will come up with the fun Christmas trips. It's funny because I heard just a different perspective. Youth group is going to New York in Christmas this year. The dates that they're going to New York in are actually going to be over Christmas, like literally the 24th and the 25th. The one day all of the US closes is the 25th. The only thing that they keep open now are the movie theaters. When we lived there 35 years ago, 36 years ago, not even the movie theaters would be open, okay? So one of the older servants, she's like, what a waste. How could they take the kids to New York City and half the time they're there, it's going to be closed? And I'm laughing because I'm thinking, you know what? They're very smart because the Christmas tree in New York, it'll be nice and empty on the 25th. Like all the sightseeing that's free and that's open because there's no money involved and there's no buying and selling. So they could actually do things that if they go to them earlier or later, they would be too crowded that the kids wouldn't enjoy them, right? Manager, the process. Leader, I'm creative. I'm doing the trip at a different time. Yes, it's going to be over Christmas, but guess what? That Christmas day, I could take the kids to see the Christmas tree in New York, take the pictures without having the whole world crowd around that Christmas tree. Okay? Leadership versus management. Leadership involves setting direction. If you as a leader do not set that direction and do not set that goal for your group, then you will lose track of your vision. You align the people. There's going to be the right people that you're going to bring on the team. Remember what I said earlier, though. Some of those people might fall off the wagon. Okay? It could be for whatever reason. There are people that, remember when I told you when you're doing this, some of this will change. It changed for me. When I first started being a principal, I was always a driver. My personality is a driver. I'm no, like, whatever I try to change that, I'm a driver. But my personality used to be more relational and then visionary. Now, 10 years into my leadership, I'm now visionary and then relation comes third. Okay. So there are people, as you're doing something, that will actually fall off and say, forget it, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't believe in what you're doing anymore. You know, you're planning a youth spiritual day, and you have the same people who serve with you every year in that youth spiritual day. What happens? They come at one point and say, I'm not interested. I'm busy. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. Is it going to stop you as a leader? No. You're just, because your team is big enough and because of your interpersonal skills, you'll just bring in the right people to do the right things. And you move on. Our annual children's convention. I think there are now less than 10 familiar faces that have been there for 30 years. The rest are new faces every year. Things change. The kids, you guys were kids in that kids convention. Now some of you are carrying that kids convention. And even now we change it and we're getting more teams. Leadership. A leader actually also motivates them towards the vision. Because they are motivating themselves, okay? Because they believe in their vision, because they're innovative, they will actually motivate people. Even, it's very funny because I get this all the time, although I never know that I'm doing this, okay? People come into my office and they sit, and I have one of my VPs there. And then I start talking about something, and the person that was coming in to, disagree with me on something, all of a sudden, not only are they agreeing on what I want, but they also are supporting what I want and telling me, how can we help? And one of my vice principals looks at me and says, I want to know how you do it. I don't know how I do it. I don't. But I could tell you, when I believe in something so much, I could convince anybody to believe in it. Okay? I could convince anybody to believe in it. That's the difference between a leader and a manager. Management, they sit, they plan, they have goals, they have targets. Abuna told you they'll talk about money. Peter will talk to you about money. Yeah, I don't do the money thing. I'm not good with the money thing. I run a school and I hate the day that the board tells me, come and let's do a budget report. Don't like that. Because I like to do things. Okay, so don't ask me about that planning part. They organize and they coordinate the resources. Like, everything is by paper and pen. Okay, everything is by paper and pen. Leaders versus manager. Managers do things right. Leaders, they actually do the right thing. Okay, so a manager, they do things right. They actually sit and they plan and they organize and they recruit, and everything is by paper and pen. They do things right. Leaders, they do the right thing. So I come into my class on Friday night. Those kids had a week from wherever, down under, and they're coming in, and I'm serving grade 12s. Let me tell you about the grade 12s this year. Grade 12s in our youth group this year are the most confused group on the planet. If you think you were confused when you were in grade 12, you weren't. So I had a funny story on Friday. I had one of the examples. By the way, universities started responding back early October. Early October. Universities do not respond back until end of December into January, and the professional programs later on. We're talking engineering has already responded. Okay, so this is causing a huge dilemma. The other dilemma these kids are going through is that some of them have applied to engineering and law, medicine and law, pharmacy and law, and they're hearing back from both at the same time. Okay, so I had a kid that came into my office on Friday to choose the courses, and I said, okay, so for next semester you're doing this, this, and that, and she had gotten accepted into law at Laurier in Sussex, and she got her TMU into engineering, civil engineering. I said, okay, you're doing 1, 2, 3. And she said, no, miss, I decided that I will just stick to law. I said, okay, you could call your mom and get me confirmation from mom. And once mom confirms with an email or a message to me, then I will change your courses. She left my room, went out to the office phone, called mom, and came back in. I said, what happened? She goes, mom hung up in my face. I said, so now we have the answer. You're not dropping the courses that could take you into engineering. This kid came to your youth group class on Friday night, along with 15 or 20 other kids in the class. And they came in and they're losing it. They want to talk, they're rowdy, they couldn't care less about your lesson, and you have a lesson to give. What would you do if you were a manager? What would you do if you were a leader? Joba. Or let me help you out as well. There was a fight between person A and person B last week, and then person C heard about it, so they're just trying to figure things out. But person D walked by and decided that they're part of the fight, and that's all coming into your class. Plus, they got another acceptance from another university as they walked into your class. Plus, they just heard that their, I don't know, their LSATs have to be done. Sorry, their SATs have to be done because Boston now needs their SATs if they want to go to pharmacy. But they applied to law, and they got into engineering, and they want to apply to pharmacy, and they're all coming to your class right now with the fights, with their future. They're coming into your class. If you're a manager and you have a lesson to give, and if you are a leader and you have a lesson to give. Taka.
I think like the manager will just like give lessons, not really caring about what people are in front of them are feeling. So maybe the leader would like try to like give them something that they can use in their life that day.
Okay, how many agree, how many disagree, and why? Ah, Christina.
I think I generally agree. Manager would be more of, okay, this is the lesson plan, let's go through it. Whereas leader would be like, okay, maybe let's do stand up, let's see what's on our mind this week going into here. And from there, navigate the situation to ultimately give the main takeaway from the lesson. So still have that takeaway there, but also making it more of, how does this apply to my life, as opposed to just like, okay, this is the motion, we're gonna go through it.
Excellent. I would do that. The manager of Tekla would be very much, okay, I have a lesson, sit down, stop talking. I want to go through the lesson and then you guys could fight after, right? And I know in your head, there are the Sunday school servants and the youth group servants that are doing that, right? And have done that. There's flash. The uncles and the aunts and the young people who started service, and it's in your head, right? And then there's the one servant that stood up and said, you know what? All right, what's really bothering you? What's going on? Okay, you know what? It's interesting because our lesson today is, and you link it. And so your lesson does not become something out there, but something in the place that you want it to be. What we're going to go through right now is different types of leaders, if my phone helps me. My phone is complaining, Ayman. It's time, right? Okay. All right. You should have said it when Abuna was here. You're saying it now? And text the message, like honest. Like Abuna leaves, you say, I need that phone replacement. Actually, the reason I don't have a laptop is my laptop now decides to go beep, beep every time I open it. So I said, I'll keep it at home. We'll just go through other technology. Okay. Yeah, it's not fun. I am, but I'm on the D-Link. My friend, both of you are together in the same room? Oh, I was going to have a heart attack. Good to see you, Sid. All right. First type of leadership that we're going to talk about is transformational leadership. Okay? And transformational leadership is they inspire and empower their followers. They're the people that just people are attracted to them because of their big visions and they want to make a real change. Okay, a real change. You see that in politics, you see that in church, you see that in your service, in your workplaces, in schools. They're the ones that want to transform everything around them. They achieve extraordinary outcomes because they're just very creative and they're very much into that. Let's change the world. Okay. They have compelling vision and personal development. They foster a culture of innovation and creativity. Okay. You'll have bits and pieces of the different leadership styles in you, but there's going to be one that will stand out more than others. And I only chose some leadership styles, not everything. Okay. So the benefit of this, they will take leadership in your youth ministry, in your classes, in your trips. They will promote that personal growth and leadership. They're the ones, if they become a general coordinator in your service, they will be the ones that will bring, the George Basiliuses and the apologetic. You'll meet George Basilius' father in February, I hear. He is an apologetic speaker, and he wrote multiple books, and he goes around. They'll bring Father Dawood Lamai to do something special. Like, they'll find the big names, and they will actually bring the servants together to grow and to be better and to have that transformational idea. They will belong to the service. Those are the coordinators that will make people feel like they really belong. Their ideas count, because you know what? They're working together and they're changing the service, and they're doing new ideas, and they're getting people excited, and they're moving, servants around, because servants decided, you know what, maybe this year I don't want to be in a class. I want to take care of opening service. I don't want to be in a class. I want to plan the social hour and get the kids really involved. I want to start doing the social services and take kids downtown Toronto, or be part of the mission trips, or whatever it is. These are the transformational. They're very empowering, and they identify community needs. So these are the ones that will come in, but they won't wake up in the morning and say, okay, today we are going to do soup kitchens because we want to do soup kitchens. This is the leader that will actually get excited about planning with his team or her team, even a youth group servant who plans with their class. Okay, how many of you are doing something special this Christmas? Oh, none of us are traveling. Good. What if we do one day of baking at my house, and then we come and do a bake sale for the church for the new building? Or there's a community need here. I remember when this building was being built, our church was much smaller, Father, when we came. It was just the St. Athanasius on this side. Yeah, a small church. I remember, now none of you were born then. We were. I was serving grade 5. So one of the things we did is we decided to use our Sunday school kids on Sunday to make the sandwiches and sell the food after church. And 100% of the money was going to buy the bricks. And every brick cost, I remember this, $25. Okay. So we wanted to buy 100 bricks. And so we sold so many sandwiches, and we got the kids excited about it. This was a community need. Our church was being built. We needed to link the kids to the building of the church. And so we decided to buy the bricks for the church. When the pews were coming along, each pew was $100. All right, how many pews can we get? When the icons were coming up, how many icons can we buy? And we got the kids to be, this is the type of the community need is there. Let's transform, let's make it service projects and create that feeling of community. Or it's no longer, the aunts and uncles and the grandpas and the parents, they're paying the checks to the church. No, what can the youth do to buy the bricks and build the church and be part of it? Then there is, Ayman, we really need you to make that message. The servant leader. A servant leader prioritizes the well-being and growth of others, emphasizing humility, empathy, and serving collective needs of the community. I always used to have a video here, but I couldn't input it. But one of the greatest servant leaders I believe that we saw in the 20th and 21st when the 21st century was His Eminence Metropolitan Bohemius. He was the interim pope between Pope Shenouda and Pope Taladros. And Pope Taladros was a child in his diocese and grew up as a kid until he became an adult, went to the monastery. He chose him to ordain him a bishop after he became a monk to assist him in the diocese. So he was the bishop under His Eminence. And he was one of the 5 that were chosen, from which the young boy Bishoy picked the name for papacy. On the day of Pope Tawadros' enthronement, I had the blessing of being there. I know Metropolitan Bohemius on a personal level because our extended family was originally from Bahia, where he's the Metropolitan, and he has a very close relationship with my grandmothers, God rest their souls, and the extended family. So I know how kind and soft-spoken and so on. But this man twice stood out in our church history, and I would highly recommend that if you Google it, you'll see, you will not understand, but the translation is at the bottom. You'll hear it from his voice. The day of Pope Shenouda's funeral, when Metropolitan Bohemius took the microphone and stood up and gave the eulogy. Peter understands Arabic, but doesn't understand it 100%. And he actually thought that His Eminence was reading a passage from the Bible because of the way his voice was so convicting. And he was bidding farewell to the 13th apostle of Christ, the father of fathers. And the way he said it was amazing. And the second time was on the day Pope Tawadros was enthroned. He was his father, and Pope Tawadros was his son. This was a father-son relationship. And Pope Tawadros' dad passed away when Pope Tawadros was a young boy. And so Metropolitan Bohemius used to really take care of those families who lost their fathers. So literally the relationship was a father-son. And in front of the entire world, Metropolitan Bohemius said, "You have now become our father. We will go back to our diocese and we will serve at your feet because we are now your children." That was what he said on the day where his son now became a father. Servant leadership. This was a man who carried the church during a very difficult time, a time that things could have gone either way. Like politics is everywhere. Politics is in our lives at home. It's in our churches. It's in our homes. It's in our workplaces. And this man, his servant leadership, carried the church. And on that day, he was a metropolitan. And he was a metropolitan for many years. Like it wasn't a new thing. So a servant leader, he emphasizes humility. But he's not the one, I'm humble. No. Remember, a leader walks the walk. He knows the way, shows the way, leads the way. So Metropolitan Bohemius was never weak for a split second. But his humility and his servanthood came out clear. There's trust and collaboration because they're very balanced, right? The leadership is a very balanced leadership. And they believe in the community and well-being and encourages the culture of selflessness and empathy among youth. In youth ministry, these are the leaders that will give a lot of mentorship, emotional support, spiritual guidance, address the holistic need of youth ministry. I served with a young man many years ago. Okay, him and I served a group of kids from grade 9 to grade 12. If you asked him to give a lesson, it would have been a day from down under. Okay, he knew it. He could not give a lesson. Like his lessons were horrible. But I have never and will never see a servant's heart who actually gave so much support and so much care for the kids as much as this guy. This is the guy that actually would go out for outreach when we are trying to get out of the outreach thing. Okay, this is like, give him outreach, he'll go from house to house, night after night. He has no problem. But give him a lesson to give, God help us all, including himself. Okay. Our third style of leadership is the autocratic leadership. So this style is a single individual makes all the decisions. Okay. I am the one in charge of the service, or I am the older servant or more experienced servant in the class. So I'm the one that's going to make all the decisions. They direct the group with little or no input. So they couldn't care less what you believe in. So this is the guy on the day of the chaos that's happening. This is probably the older servant who will say, what are you doing? Don't waste time. Let's get the lesson going. And then they could talk about their university confusion after. It is now time for the lesson. This is what's going to happen. This is also the leader that will be very systematic. You must serve, you must do outreach for 10 kids this week. If you don't do the outreach for the 10 kids, then you're not doing your job. But I have school and I have commitment. I'm sorry, I didn't ask for your opinion. Okay, this is the autocratic leader. They have power and authority, they hold power and authority. They typically make decisions based on their own judgments and beliefs. You'll find that, and I hope I'm not going to get in trouble with the older servants. Okay, the older servants that grew up in a time where there was no flexibility. They might have great ideas and they might have great leadership and great intentions, but their beliefs and their, like, you have to do this and that and that. You have to go outreach a certain way. You have to go to people's houses, knock on that door, go into their house. Yeah, but I'm outreaching 5 kids by taking them out for lunch and spending the day with them. And I get a lot out of them, a lot more than when I go to their house. When I go to their house, they don't talk to me. Nope, I'm sorry. You need to outreach those 5 kids by going to their houses individually. Okay, that's the type of autocratic leader. They have clear direction and they're very efficient. So you could use these guys in what? What do you think you could use these guys in?
Program development.
Excellent. Program development. You know, our curriculum in youth ministry needs changing. So why don't you take this and kind of go for it? Try to change it. Okay, and tell us what your inputs are. Because they're usually very good in their beliefs. Like, I'm not saying that their heart is in the right place. It's just they're not flexible leaders. The one thing though, be careful. Because if you don't like something in the program they developed, they won't listen to you. Okay, what else? How about big events like youth conventions? Or why the mix? The mix is every summer, Father. You don't want to come to church in July, okay? We have, last year we had what, 500? They took them to the valley actually last year, our retreat house, because they used the entire land there to kind of keep them under control. But they have like spiritual competitions one night, and then the next night there's like the dunk tank and the wall climbing and the team building stuff, and they compete and from all around Ontario, and then we have the winners announced and so on. So these are the people that you want there who started this service and they like it and they're into it, and they're the ones that will do the programming really well for something like this. Democratic leader. I don't like these guys. Because these guys, as nice as they are, because they take everyone's opinion in everything in life, things don't get done. Because, all right, we are going to Tim Hortons. How many people here would like coffee? How many would like tea? And then we have Joba who says, but I like Starbucks. Okay, so now we're going to vote. whether we want Starbucks or Tim Hortons. Then Justina's going to say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not doing Starbucks because I'm boycotting it because of what they're doing in Gaza. I want Second Cup. So now we have 3 options, and then we could go on and on and on. They're democratic. They don't want to make the decision themselves. It's everyone's decision. I'll tell you a fun story. 14 years ago, PCC had a principal for 5 years. The school, we had a principal for 5 years, and she got sick. Mrs. Delano, you remember her, right? Delano, the Italian lady? No? Oh, you were after, okay. So for 5 years, we had this principal. She was great. Okay, she actually was the principal that moved from this building into the new building that we're at. She's probably the reason why I got into leadership, because she saw in me leadership, and she asked me to do stuff around and pushed me out of my comfort zone. Mrs. Delano got sick, and for about a year and a half, we would not know whether she was coming in or not. But for a year and a half, we were okay because she was really good leader. So she had really pulled us together, and she had a team. We knew exactly what to do even when she was not there. Okay. The last few months, though, she really collapsed. In fact, a couple of days, it was Thursday and school was starting on Tuesday. We kept on calling her. Now, the last week before school starts, that's when all the staff meetings happen. Okay. She wasn't coming, and she wasn't answering our calls, and we didn't know what to do. So right before school started, on Thursday, we get a phone call from her house. I answer, and it's her daughter. And she said, I said, where's your mom? And she goes, unfortunately, she's been in the hospital for a week, and she's not getting out of the hospital anytime soon because they've decided she had Crohn's disease and she had to do surgery with her colon. They have to do the surgery. Like, she's been trying to avoid it, she has to do surgery. So I called the Bunangelos right away as chairman of the board. I was a head teacher at that time. I didn't have any authority. And the board came together, the school board came together, and there was a nice retired gentleman who was a principal in the Toronto District School Board. He was a congregant in the church. They called him, and he said, I'm ready to help until you find someone. So he came in, and he was the perfect democratic leader. Everything for 6 months, we could not discipline a kid without taking the opinion of the world. We could not change a light bulb in the class until we have everyone's decision. He was a really nice guy, but as staff and as parents and as kids, how do you think this would feel? In our fast-paced world, would you want a democratic leader? No. Okay, it's very frustrating, very frustrating. And he's an amazing man, but he was very frustrating at that time. So they have the diverse perspective. These would not be the good guys to put into full coordination or to be a lead servant in a class, or this would be someone who you would use, for example, in other ways like events, because they will be the ones that will they will actually get everyone's opinion. They're good with doing surveys, but they cannot execute. So you need to have a lot of other people on that team to execute those surveys. Okay. Service projects. You know, we're going to do that. We're going to do the bricks. We're going to buy the bricks for the St. Athanasius building. So let's do it together. We'll do a survey on how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, and so on. Get them busy with the surveys. They like surveys because it takes their time. they hear everyone. They're good though in the area when you come to them and say, okay, what do you think we should do in this? They'll give you ideas because they hear everyone. But do they execute? Good luck. Okay. Charismatic leaders. Now, be careful. Charismatic leaders, we always think they're the loud, obnoxious people that get people hooked on their lessons and so on. A charismatic leader could be also a very quiet, but very much present there. Let me take you to Amba Angelos, Bishop Angelos from England. He's very quiet. Why do you listen to him on Upper Room or anywhere else? Or when he comes here? Why are people so interested in listening to him? Yeah, he's charismatic and his accent and the way he makes you think. And then when you close your eyes at the end and he makes sure that you didn't fall asleep to ask you, that's a charisma, right? So charismatic leader is not always the loud, I'm trying to think. God rest his soul, Father Saman of Mokatta Mountain, where you'd have 10,000 people there and he'd be giving the sermon. It could also be Bishop Angelos, who's very quiet. But you don't want to sleep in his sermon because you know he's going to ask you and randomly ask you what he was talking about, right? He builds that charisma. A charismatic leader is one who leads by inspiring, energizing others. They are dynamic personalities, vision, and communication skills. Okay, so they're very compelling. You want to be there with them. It could be an interpersonal relationship. They like kids. They bring the kids closer to them through whatever. They find a strength the kid would have, and they would just know exactly what to do. Okay, and their vision is very clear. They have excellent communication skills. Doesn't have to be loud and obnoxious. Pope Shenouda actually was much louder when he was quiet. In fact, one of the videos that kept on coming up, and I hate that video, was when a deaconess was stabbed in Alexandria, and they informed him right before the sermon, and his tears started to come down. That was charismatic. Okay. The deacon Ibrahim Ayed at that moment just started singing a song, and they tried to take the camera off him. They have very strong emotional connection, effective communication, increased engagement. These are like George Basilius. You're going to hear him speak. George is a very quiet guy. The minute he starts speaking, you're all interested because of what? The book he wrote, right? Because of the way he intrigues you. There's that connection. They're the dynamic worship leaders. They don't need to be the ones that will think so loud, but they're the ones that will bring the kids in and know when to bring in a church hymn versus a praise and worship song, when to say a prayer or say a comment in between. They're very dynamic in their worship style. They're compelling speakers. They're visionary youth coordinators. So these are the guys that really know everyone around them. So they will know that Joba will be really good in planning the sports events, while Mary Grace will do more of the class interaction, while Justina will plan the service projects, because they have that strong team in communication, and they make sure they're very excited. They're very passionate. You will believe in their vision, even if they don't know their full vision, just because of who they are. Okay, they're very neat people to work with. These guys, and these guys are also not one of my favorites. They're the free reign, the laissez-faire. They're the ones that have their own space of creativity. Okay, there's self-direction and decision making among the youth and leaders within ministries. So they're the ones that like are very laid back. Okay, when they're laid back, they have their vision and they have their thoughts, and they're like the ones that like you want to put a plate under them because the oil is dripping. All right, so they are characterized by trust in the abilities of individuals involved, and believe they can actually handle responsibilities effectively without constant supervision. Because they're so quiet and they're so laid back, they're the people you could actually send out in the service in different areas and know that they will do that balance. Okay, they'll do that balance. I don't like them very much because they don't have their own but they are the really good ones when you have a debate that will be taking place in youth group, that you could actually use them as the people who will actually monitor the debate or put control over what's being said, because they will not get in people's faces. Let's say Justina and Mary Grace, they're doing a debate and on gender identity. Sorry, hot topic in our Ontario. So gender identity, Justina takes a position, Mary Grace takes a position. They get very passionate as they're planning this event. This is the leader that you bring in to kind of balance the two. Okay, I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from, but let's keep it calm. When you guys are in the debate, if I feel like I need to step in, I will. They're very laid back. They won't take the initiative themselves. All right, these are. My phone is really complaining from me. All right. Situation leadership. Now, let me tell you a story. I was already vice principal. Okay, I was already vice principal, but when you're a vice principal, there's always a principal that will take the decisions and go on. And our school building on Mississauga Road was built at a time when Canada started to get warmer. Ontario started to get warmer. So half the building is built when things got warmer. So in that year specifically, we didn't have much snow. And so a lot of the builders did not use the proper roofing material. And then they expanded the building to include a newer area. And that newer area was when we started going back to having a bit of snow. By the way, you guys, I'm not sure how many of you will remember this, but I remember 25 years ago, in December, the army had to come out to clean the streets. Yeah, you guys would not remember that, right? No, oh, no, and then after, Father, in 98, December 1998. Yeah, 1998, December 1998, the army, it was because we had a vigil overnight. And I remember we tried to go home, and my parents live right behind the church. And the car, we couldn't move. Like, we walked home, the snow was up to here, and it was still coming. Okay, so Canada was a lot colder. What you guys see today, these are not storms. This is called just normal snow. Okay, so anyways, our building was pretty much, well maintained. And then we started having issues with the roof on one side. So we'd have some leaks here and there. They would patch it, and we're like, okay, whenever, because roofing is very expensive. The principal, who was at the time, was going for surgery on a Monday. Sunday night, and starting that Monday for about 6 weeks, I was going to be acting principal. Sunday night, we get a call from the building manager who says, I think you need to come to the school building. Now, the funny thing is, YMCP was being held in that building at that time, but on the other side, on the newer side. So we went into the building, and I said, on the phone, I said, what's going on? He said, just come into the building. I can't explain on the phone because I'm trying to do damage control. The principal and I went in, and the roof on the one side had fallen through, and there was snow on top, and so it melted, and so basically the water was to the knee. She was going on sick leave the next day. Okay, situation leadership had to kick in. So quickly we cleaned as much as we can. We started putting things into progress. I said, we can't close the school. If we close the school, being a private school, if you breathe the wrong way, if you say the wrong thing, everything gets held against you and stories get created. So I said, we're not going to close the school. We're going to bring in the kids the next day, but we're going to go to the other side of the building that's not damaged and won't be damaged because the roof on that side is really good. Okay. We went the next day, and the high school students were really kind with the younger ones. I remember they were like picking them up because the kids were scared and moving them over. They were, and I was at the door welcoming everyone, and I was saying, you know what, we're teaching them to walk on water, just like Jesus walked on water. I'm trying to laugh and joke and make things happen. And I had a staff member who continues to be the same way. If someone goes like this and she's not paying attention, and so we're standing in the office, okay, and this is already stressful situation as it is. And as we were standing, we had the lights off, obviously, because of electricity and whatever. All of a sudden, 2 tiles decided to fall right there and then. And she just screamed. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I really want this leadership post. Situation leadership, I had to keep myself afloat. I have 300 kids, 35, 40 teachers, parents coming in worried. I had to stay focused. Situation leadership. I got home. I remember Abuna opening the door and he said, how was it? Was everything okay? I went like this. I went upstairs. I cried for half an hour and I was perfectly fine after. Okay. The amount of stress that was, but that was situational leadership. It's based on the needs and maturity of the person, and situations happen. So you cannot say, and I'm telling you today, I'm telling you now, once you start serving youth, situations will rise as they say good morning to you. You cannot say, I'm just finished YMCP, I have nothing to do with this. Oh man, I don't know, I can't talk to them, I'm too young. No, there's someone else that's going to do the job. It doesn't work this way. You will be put in those, a lot of you will start your ministry in situation leadership, okay? There will be situations, there will be the kid that will hit another kid on the effa, on the back of their neck, and you're going to have to absorb any reaction that comes out. Are you going to say it's fine, whatever? I don't, there's someone else, there's an adult there that's going to deal. You're adults, okay? They tailor their leadership to the needs and the individual needs. They encourage skill development, promote adaptive and flexible leadership. This is very much a great type of leadership where you have to be really flexible. When you're put into tough situations, you have to be flexible. You have to work through them, right? You don't know who's going to say what, how they're going to say it, what's going to come out of their mouth. Kids today talk, then think, okay? And when they talk, then think, we get into a lot of situations. What are you going to do? In youth ministry, a situation leadership may adjust the approach based on the maturity and the needs. Okay? It happens in your lesson. Father, I'm sure it happens in your sermon. You get up to give the sermon, and right before you got to church, you heard a problem. It comes out. You have to address it somehow, right? Situational leadership. You have to be prepared. You cannot just let it slide and say, whatever, it's not my job. Or my sermon is prepared a certain way. It doesn't work that way, okay? When you are in ministry, expect the unexpected. Even Jesus Christ himself had the unexpected, okay? He's walking in peace, then he has someone touch him, and power leaves his, and he stops. Who touched me? Yeah, the woman who's been bleeding. He's walking and he's having a conversation, and there's a guy hanging off a tree. Zacchaeus. He's walking and a funeral procession is coming his way. Does he ignore it? But he has to be somewhere at some time. He doesn't ignore it. He stops and does the miracle of raising the son of the widow of Nain. So if Jesus Christ had situation leadership, you also will have situational leadership.
You guys know the answer, I know that.
Yeah, I know.
You got all the answers.
Yeah, he did it. It's funny when you allow God to guide you, how much he actually uses things in you that you didn't know that you had. Okay. John Maxwell was asked, are leaders born? And he joked and he said, I hope they are. I would never want to see an unborn leader. And they didn't get the joke. And then he said, there are people who are natural leaders, just like people who are natural mathematicians. That's not me. I don't like math. Sorry to all the engineers in the house. But there are people who have those tendencies to lead, right? I told you at the beginning, I have kids as young as kindergarten who I actually would probably trust them leading more than adults. Just the way they express themselves and talk and convince you of things. And they're kids, they're tiny, okay? And some of them actually don't do any much. They just walk in and people will walk in right after them. So there's this type of leadership. So allowing God to work through you, you will have that tendency. And in order for you to really succeed in leadership, your leadership is your lid. It goes hand in hand. What do I mean? I mean, how high is your vision and how passionate are you about your service matches your leadership. You cannot be a level 1 leader by the wall or in the wall and expect to be the most amazing youth servant on the planet. Your lid will not be, it has to cover, it will be at 1. So the more you raise your leadership, the more you can actually lift up your lid of service. Don't stay safe. Being in service is not safety, okay? It's not. You've made the decision to join this group, which is great. But what are you going to do with it? Don't expect that after you attend all the courses of youth ministry certification that you will miraculously wake up one day and become, the next, I don't know who, best youth servant that ever walked the planet. There's a process. And when you go into youth ministry, watch and absorb, because it is becoming an effective servant and an effective leader. It happens through a process. You don't sleep and then wake up in the morning and you're like a leader today, okay? Or you sleep and you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you're the perfect servant. You know what? I bet you if you would have asked Pope Shenouda on his last day here with us, after 40 years of leading the Coptic Church, he will tell you, I'm still learning, right? And this man, I don't think we will ever have another leader that has gone through and the process he's gone through, and you will not see for a while. I mean, God sends the right person at the right time for the right leadership place, but that's reality. So you as a servant, don't come out of this program thinking I'm now going to be the perfect youth servant because I've taken leadership and management, I've taken counseling, I've taken apologetics, I'm now the best. No, it doesn't work that way. I'm still learning. I was sharing with Father before you guys came in. I'm learning from my experiences. I'm learning from people around me. I'm also still studying. Any opportunity I get to study. Maria, my older daughter, came into my office and she looked and she's like, "How many degrees do you have and certificates?" And I thought, don't count. I stopped counting. There's things I don't even print anymore because I'm still going, right? You will not stop learning, but see where God wants to take you. These are my DQs. I'm going to send them to Ayman. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to split you up into groups. I have, quote unquote, baptized some of the case studies, okay? It's different stories from youth ministry. Coordinators, youth service, choir leaders, worship, and so on. And you guys are going to work with a partner or in a small group, and you're going to come out and present to us what the outcome of this in leadership. Okay. I'm ready to answer any of your questions. I know I talked too much and I bored you to death, but I wanted to get you out of here early. So do you have any questions or any comments that you would like to share?
My son actually, when he was in his elementary, teacher called me when one day they their stories and they call it parenting things. I was shocked when the teacher was saying that take care of your son. You know why? He has the attitude of being a leadership. I was like, really? I mean, but all along it's very from since he started the school, when he finished in 11th grade, it was like what he got got like a lot of scholarship there.
Yeah.
It became like you know what you got you graduate you have this
Honor roll?
not honor roll. It was the chosen one out of the 9 kids.
Oh wow.
Out of a 9 kid, it was the chosen one, like a
Valedictorian, yes. Yes.
he, I was like, me and my father said, no, I cannot do this. And then he get into high school, the same thing.
Hmm. They stand out, Father.
And then he went to college,
Uh-huh.
he got the same thing, like he's got at the highest level.
Mhm.
Now the school, when he graduated, they gave him to the opportunity to work in Westfield.
Yeah.
He's now a technician.
Yeah.
Technician.
Yeah.
I was like, and he's a deacon. He became a deacon. I was like my wife, I said, you know, see the blessing you get from this kid.
It's true. By the way, Father, we talk about Pope Shenouda a lot, and Pope Shenouda's mom died when he was 3 days old. His father died when he was 6 years old. He was raised by his older brothers. At the age of 5, when they went back then, they didn't have birth certificates, and even if they did, because his mom died so fast after his birth, they didn't issue a birth certificate for him. So he went to the doctor. They have to go to the doctor to issue kind of like an age certificate to kind of say how old he was. And so the doctor said, "You look like you're about 8 or 9 years old." And he stopped and said, "You know what, doctor? My mom died 3 days after I was born, and she died on this day. So I must have been X amount, whatever. I am now 6 years old." So from the age of 6, this kid was correcting, the adults, and they're thinking, I knew him when he was much older, obviously, but it was interesting how he becomes a child with the child. He becomes an adult with the adults. His sermons, his comments, his jokes, everything. It was almost like a lesson in itself. There are so many people in our lives that we pass by and we're like looking, we're like, how? Where's leadership in that? And I use the verse all the time, and a prayer that we prayed during the Apostles' Fast. He used the least of the people to bring up the wise, like to teach the wise, right? The Virgin Mary herself. This is an orphan child who's dedicated to the altar, and she's the Virgin Mary. So leaders are there, and we as adults, and we as parents, and we as servants, we close our eyes. Like I use Joba as an example because he serves with my daughter on Saturday night, so I got a full report about the party you guys had yesterday. But I know those kids, and it's the easiest thing we say. They're just kids. How? They're just kids. How? It's not. They're not just kids. They're not just kids. And wherever we go, whatever we do, there's gonna always be the kid that stands up and do something that's right, right? And how you take that and how you use that in youth ministry is so important. Because I'm telling everyone now, it's not going to be for another 3-4 years that we all recover from this thing called COVID. The psychological effects that it had on us, and the negative impact it had on us. The kids actually, I'm telling you, they don't know how to be human. Mind you, like it's like you're dealing with things in grade 10 and 11 that you should have dealt with in grade 6 and 7, but they didn't have it in grade 6 and 7 because they were locked up. So now their attitude is different. So it's funny because I always find that even in the worst of the worst, there's something in there that you could pull out and make them believe in themselves. Yeah.
That is so possible. Now this guy is, I think it's in the church. It's not our language, and it's singing it, it's playing the harp, it's playing the harp.
They surprise you.
That makes him unique, and now he's teaching, he's not in college, he's teaching kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, leadership.
Yeah.
I myself cannot do it.
Yeah.
But I am the type of guy who do it. Like, I'm handyman, I can do that with all of it.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But I cannot manage.
Look, Father, I told you. I said you guys are gonna have Peter. He's the paper and pen guy. I'm not the paper and pen. I act and then I think. I say and I do and then I think. It's very important that because that's why you have your team has to be very strong. And people with different talents and they work together. That's the important part. When you work together, when you serve together, when you know that you're not going to be the perfect person, it doesn't mean that you're not going to put direction as a leader. Your direction comes in your vision, in motivating others, in being innovative, in leading through your passion and your belief. The minute you lose that, the minute you cannot lead anymore. And so it's very important. And I said at the beginning, leadership is a very lonely place. Serving is a very lonely place right now because, with everything that's happening around us, how many of us are able to say no? And how many of us are able to really teach those kids to stand up for what's right? The word I hate the most now, the word snitch. I don't want to be a snitch. They do something wrong, they see something wrong in front of them, they know it's wrong, but they will not be the ones that will say that, you know what, I wasn't okay with it. It takes a lot from kids today to actually say, I don't like this. This is not right. And it's going to be your job as youth leaders tomorrow to bring that feeling that when something's right, it's right. When something's wrong, it's wrong. And be okay to say it's wrong. You're not being a snitch at that point. So, any other questions, any comments? Anything that you've learned today? Nothing? Good, excellent. All right, I'll share the DQ questions. Use them also to reflect for yourself. I know you were here, so you don't have to do them, but they're good for you to reflect. I now highly recommend, after we finished our talk, look at this again, fix whatever you want, and then turn it over and do a plan for yourself. Because I actually like this because it has questions, thought-provoking questions. Okay, I'm letting you go early. Next week you won't be going early because next week you're going to be doing some work. All right. Thank you.